I think that it would sell in the range of $125,000.
I know you're kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding. It's a
Really?
wonderful, yes.
Really?
It's a wonderful painting.
Could a painting ignored for decades secretly be hiding $1 million story? On Antiques Roadshow, some owners arrived with artworks they thought were just old family keepsakes, only to discover they were holding pieces of history. Welcome to our channel. Today, we're uncovering the most astonishing painting discoveries ever seen on Antiques Roadshow. From forgotten artworks stored away for generations to rare masterpieces connected to legendary artists, these paintings shocked everyone when their true value was finally revealed. Sometimes, the greatest treasures aren't locked away in museums, they're hiding in ordinary homes.
As I recall, I paid $150 for it.
$150. I think that a gallery in New York would be asking $300,000.
Where's the chair?
Number 1. Jane Peterson painting, The Answer. Could a painting purchased for just $150 really turn into a masterpiece worth hundreds of thousands of dollars? For Carol, the answer was never an investment. It was simply a painting she loved, a piece connected to memories from her younger years, and something that had been part of her family's life for nearly half a century. But when it appeared on Antiques Roadshow, this familiar painting revealed a story that even its owner never expected.
I felt like I was in convulsions when you told me what the price was I was going to.
At the Albuquerque Roadshow in 2014, Deborah Force met a guest named Carol, who brought in a mysterious painting called The Answer that posed some intriguing questions.
The story began decades earlier when Carol first discovered the painting. What attracted her was not a famous signature or the possibility that it could one day become valuable. It was simply the connection she felt with the image, the colors, and the emotions captured within the artwork.
Golly, I guess it was 1963. I did my junior year in Madrid, Spain. And I lived right close to the Joaquin Sorolla Museum in Madrid. I just fell in love with this.
But behind the painting Carol loved was an important name. Jane Peterson, an American artist known for her powerful use of color and vibrant paintings of landscapes, harbors, and gardens. However, The Answer was different from many of Peterson's more familiar works, and that detail immediately caught the experts' attention.
Jane Peterson did not really paint figure works like this. Some of her best-known pieces were done on the piers in New England, on Gloucester and areas like that, but she rarely focuses on just one sitter. It was just overall an exciting work. The label on the back tells us the title, and it's called The Answer, and it's very mysterious.
This unusual subject, combined with Peterson's reputation and the mysterious quality of the figure in the painting, transformed the artwork into a remarkable discovery. After nearly 50 years hanging in her home, Carol finally learned that the painting she bought purely because she loved it carried a value far beyond anything she imagined.
You said you purchased it unframed, did you not?
Yes. As I recall, I paid $150 for it.
$150. I think that a gallery in New York would be asking $300,000.
Where's the chair? Now I need that chair.
From an unframed painting bought for only $150, The Answer became one of the unforgettable moments on Antiques Roadshow. After the show, the artwork continued to prove its true value in the art market and helped Carol begin a new chapter in her life. A decision made purely from a love of art ultimately became the answer she never expected. Number 2. H.F. Farny watercolor and gouache painting. Could a painting once valued at only a few $100s as a simple print actually be an original artwork worth hundreds of thousands? For years, this was just a familiar family piece, kept more for its personal memories than its potential artistic value. But one tiny detail trapped inside the frame made the owner wonder if the real story behind it was completely different.
So this is a painting that I was given when my grandmother passed away. It always hung right above her bed. Her dad, I'm guessing, would have given it to her after she spent the summer at a dude ranch when she was 19 in like the 40s. Not sure if it's a print or a painting, but when I got it, there was a mosquito underneath the glass. So I took it out to the front yard and I opened it up to get the mosquito out so I could take it with me to college. And then it kind of scared me a little.
Opening the frame just to remove a mosquito unexpectedly became the moment that changed everything. Because in the art world, the difference between a decorative copy and an original work can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the biggest surprise was that this painting had already been examined before, and its true value was still overlooked.
Okay, and have you had it appraised before? Do you know if she had it appraised?
It was appraised in like a general house appraisal twice. In 1998, it was appraised as a print at $200, and in 2004, it was appraised at $250.
Okay.
Everything began to change when the expert looked closer at the artist behind the piece. This was no longer just an old family painting. It was connected to one of the important artists of the American West.
So that's the artist. It's Henry Francois Farny. He was born in France. He came to Pennsylvania when he was about 6 years old.
After arriving in Pennsylvania, Farny's connection with the Seneca people helped shape his lifelong interest in indigenous communities. That influence became a defining part of his career, as Farny's paintings captured not only scenes of the American West, but also the people, clothing, daily life, and cultures he carefully studied. With this painting, the artist's reputation, the subject matter, and the quality of the work transformed something once mistaken for a simple print into a completely different discovery.
So if we were going to put this in an auction today, I would suggest an estimate of $200,000 to $300,000.
So I can't hang it up. Oh my God. That's so much. I don't even know what to say.
From a painting once believed to be worth only $200, Farny's work became an unforgettable Antiques Roadshow discovery. Number 3. Frank Schoonover Oil Painting Privateers of '76. Could a family gift that was secretly planned for years become a work of art worth more than $100,000? For this family, the painting did not begin as an investment. It began with a wife who wanted to give her husband something truly special, something connected to his love of books and illustrated stories. But years later, Antiques Roadshow discovered that behind this personal memory was a much more important piece of art.
Well, I inherited this painting from my parents. My mother wanted to give my father a gift that he would really love. And he loved reading to his children books that had illustrations. And this is one of the illustrations.
At first, the greatest value of the painting came from the family story behind it. But sometimes, the objects preserved because of personal memories accidentally protect a piece of history. And the way this artwork became part of the family made the story even more special.
So what she did was she saved $5 from her food money every week for probably 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And didn't tell him this.
Right.
After years of saving a little at a time, the gift she chose was Privateers of '76, a work by Frank Schoonover, one of the prominent American illustrators of the early 20th century. During that period, illustration art was much more than images placed beside a story. Artists like Schoonover created vivid scenes of adventure, allowing readers to see entire worlds through their paintings. But what made this piece even more valuable was Schoonover's important place in art history.
Now, Schoonover, of course, is one of the premier artists of the Brandywine School. And he studied with Howard Pyle, who's considered the father of the school.
Yes.
His connection to the Brandywine School and Howard Pyle helps explain why Schoonover's original works are so highly valued by collectors. The combination of painting skill, powerful storytelling, and influence during the golden age of American illustration transformed this family artwork into a remarkable discovery. And finally, the owner learned how the market truly viewed the painting.
If this were in a gallery, I think that it would sell in the range of $125,000.
I know you're kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding. It's a wonderful, yes.
Really?
From a gift created through patience and love, Privateers of '76 became an unforgettable moment on Antiques Roadshow. But for the family, the greatest value was not only the number, the painting also preserved the story of the people who loved it long before the world recognized its true worth. Number 4. WINFRED REMBERT Moonshiner's Painting. Could a painting purchased simply to support a local artist become a piece that museums wanted to own years later? For the owner of Moonshiners, this was never an investment. It was just a moment when she and her husband were moved by the story of a unique artist and decided to buy his work to support him. But they never imagined that the painting hanging in their home was preserving a much larger story.
This is a painting by the New Haven artist WINFRED REMBERT. It's entitled Moonshiners, and it is hand-carved, tooled painting on leather.
From the material alone, WINFRED REMBERT's artwork was already different. Instead of painting on traditional canvas, he carved directly into leather and used color to transform personal memories into images. But what made Rembert's art special was not only the technique. Each piece reflected the people, communities, and experiences he witnessed throughout his life. And his journey to becoming an artist was unlike almost anyone else's.
And he did not start creating these artworks till he was about 50 or 51. He learned to tool leather in prison. There was a guy there he called TJ the Tooler.
Rembert began creating art later in life, but he brought decades of memories and stories into his work. Over time, his paintings were no longer seen only as personal creations. They became unique records of history, memory, and everyday life. That was what dramatically changed his place in the art world. But the value of this piece would become even more astonishing.
The market has become very, very active. Museums now feel a need to have an example of his artwork.
Okay.
In today's market, retail, I would have no problem saying this is somewhere between $100,000 and $125,000.
This change was not only about the market, it also reflected how more people began recognizing the importance of the stories Rembert shared through his art. A painting once purchased out of respect for the artist had become part of a legacy that many people wanted to preserve. Number 5. Moglia Micromosaic Plaque of Beatrice, CENCI. Could a piece that looks like a painting actually be created from thousands of tiny pieces of glass almost impossible to see individually? At first glance, many people might think this is a classic portrait, but the secret behind this artwork is that it was not created with a paintbrush at all. After years of being kept within the family, this special piece was brought to Antiques Roadshow to uncover the true story behind it.
It's a micromosaic. We don't know if it's from Italy or Russia. It's by the artist MOGLIA, but there's a father and a son, so that's one of the things I'd like to find out. My grandmother was an antique dealer.
What makes micromosaic so remarkable is the craftsmanship behind the process. Instead of using paint, the artist must arrange countless tiny pieces of material to create light, shadows, and depth that resemble an actual painting. But when the expert examined it more closely, one detail about the material made the story even more interesting.
Are these stone or
mosaics are stone often. These are neither ceramic or stone. These are actually glass.
These tiny glass pieces allowed the artist to create subtle variations of color, making the face, clothing, and smallest details appear incredibly lifelike. But beyond the technique, another important factor that determined the value of the piece was the person who created it.
So you mentioned Moglia. It is signed Moglia here on the margin. There are 3 of them, Luigi, Augusta, there was Domenico. They all flourished in the 19th century when they were making these wonderful works of art. I don't know for certain, but I think it's by Luigi.
The Moglia name brought the artwork to an entirely different level. The Moglia family was among the most important names in 19th century micromosaic art, known for transforming tiny pieces of glass into images with extraordinary detail. And with a plaque of this size, both the difficulty of creating it and its rarity became even greater.
The art of micromosaic on this sort of scale, which is actually very, very large for a mosaic, is incredibly rare and incredibly exciting to find on Antiques Roadshow. I would think an insurance valuation of $85,000
Cool.
would be a fair price.
Excellent.
It's an absolutely splendid work of art.
From a mysterious family object, the Moglia Micromosaic Plaque of Beatrice, CENCI became a rare discovery on Antiques Roadshow. Its true value was not only found in the appraisal number, but also in the thousands of tiny details created through the patience and extraordinary skill of the artist behind it. Number 6. Attributed Pablo Picasso ballet drawing. In the art world, finding a genuine Picasso at a house clearance sale sounds almost too unbelievable to be true. So, could an old box of frames, purchased almost by chance, really contain a work by one of the most famous artists in history?
We have one of these famous cliches in the art world, which goes, I met this bloke the other day who says he bought a genuine Picasso in a house clearance sale. Where did you buy this?
A house clearance sale.
And who do you think it's by?
Picasso.
This is exactly the kind of discovery that makes experts curious, but also extremely cautious. Many works carrying the names of legendary artists have appeared on the market, but only a small number can survive the process of authentication. What made this case especially interesting was that the drawing did not come from a major collection. It came from a completely ordinary purchase.
And we stopped and we bought a beautiful 1930s Lalique plate, a little oil painting, and a box of, I suppose, miscellaneous frames, and paid about €50 for the box. And I suppose you can tell where this story is going.
So the box contains?
Yes.
This.
Sometimes, an important art discovery begins with something that everyone else overlooks. But with Picasso, a signature is only one piece of the puzzle. Experts also need to examine the style, materials, period, and how closely the piece connects to the artist's known works. And this drawing had several details that made it fascinating.
Yes.
I mean, it's got that wonderfully spare line. I mean, it looks like a work of the perhaps 1920s. They look like ballerinas, don't they?
Yes.
And there's a lovely simplicity in the line, you know.
Picasso was known for his ability to create powerful images using only the simplest lines. However, looking like Picasso's style does not guarantee that a piece was actually created by him. For artworks this important, official authentication is always the final step, and that became the biggest challenge for this drawing. With that challenge still ahead, the question remained, how much could this piece actually be worth?
There's only one way to get a Picasso through, and that's to go to the Picasso family and get the stamp of approval. And as I'm sure you know, that is no easy task. Sometimes they say yes, and sometimes they say no. If it's by Picasso and it's looking good, it's worth £60,000 to £80,000.
From a €50 box of old frames, this drawing became one of the most fascinating mysteries on Antiques Roadshow. Although the final answer depends on authentication, it represents the hope that every collector dreams about. Sometimes, an incredible work of art may be hiding in the most unexpected places. Number 7. Al Stohlman Tooled Leatherwork Picture. Could a picture of a horse created on leather actually be connected to the history of an entire craft? At first glance, this does not look like the traditional paintings made with oil or watercolor that many people are familiar with. But behind every line on the leather surface is a technique that requires precision, experience, and countless hours of handwork. More importantly, it is directly connected to one of the most influential names in the world of leathercraft.
So this is a leather picture of a horse that was made by Al Stohlman. And my great-grandfather started working with leather, and he realized there were no good tools. So he created some leather working tools in partnership with Al Stohlman, and they kind of went around and toured and taught people how to use the leather tools.
From its origins, this was never an ordinary piece of leatherwork. Al Stohlman did not just create handcrafted pieces. He helped shape the way generations of artists learned and developed the techniques of leather carving. But to understand why this work was so special, the expert had to look at Stohlman's importance in the field.
Al Stohlman is considered to be one of the pioneers or the godfather of leathercraft tooling. He's born in California. As a kid, he likes drawing pictures of the Pacific Northwest animals.
In leather tooling, every detail is created directly on the surface, where each mark is almost impossible to undo. The combination of artistic ability and craftsmanship helped make Stohlman such an important figure. And this horse picture could be connected to a major turning point in his career.
It's widely recorded that in 1952, he created a massive leatherwork picture of a Palomino horse that caught the eye of the owner of the craft tool company.
If this was truly the piece mentioned in Stohlman's history, its importance went far beyond its appearance. It represented the moment when one craftsman's talent helped bring leathercraft to more people through tools, instructional books, and teaching methods. And And finally, the expert revealed the value of this special work.
This is a shining example of great craftsmanship. And if this were in a retail setting, we could easily see someone putting $30,000 to $50,000 on it.
Wow, that's a lot. Wow.
It certainly is.
From a picture of a horse created on leather, Al Stohlman's work became a memorable discovery on Antiques Roadshow. Its value came not only from the craftsmanship, but also from the story of an artist who helped change the way an entire community understood and developed leathercraft. Number 8. Henry Siddons' Mowbray painting. Could a painting that was once just a familiar image in someone's bedroom actually be an important part of American art history? For the owner, this was not something purchased as an investment or a collector's item. It was a family artwork created by his own grandfather and connected to many personal memories. But when it appeared on Antiques Roadshow, the story behind the artist was what made this painting truly special.
Tim, your grandfather was a really interesting artist, but this is just such a luscious painting. Henry Siddons Mowbray was born in actually Alexandria, Egypt, in 1858. Studied in Paris, and died in 1928. You have an idea of when this was painted and what series it's from, don't you?
I think it was painted around 1895.
The period when this painting was created turned out to be an important detail. In the late 19th century, many American artists were strongly influenced by classical European art, using symbolic figures to express deeper ideas. And Henry Siddons Mowbray was one of the artists connected to this remarkable creative period. But that was only the beginning of what made this family painting stand out.
Well, apparently your grandmother wrote that your grandfather was very much influenced by classical themes, with themes of the American Renaissance, and with figures of muses and virtues. And these lovely allegorical figures are terrific.
Although Mowbray was known for his large decorative projects and murals, smaller paintings like this still revealed his technique and unique artistic style. But the value of the piece was not only about its beauty, the bigger story came from Mowbray's place in an important chapter of American art history, and the next details showed just how connected he was to that world.
What's interesting to me, you mentioned the murals, is that he was great friends with Augustus St. Gaudens and with the architectural firm of Stanford White, McKim, Mead and White.
These connections showed that Mowbray was part of a network of artists who helped shape the visual style of America in the late 19th century. So this was not only a family keepsake, it represented an important chapter in the artist's career. And finally, the owner discovered the true value of the painting he had known for years.
Given that, at auction, I would estimate it at between $50,000 and $75,000.
Wow. I could never sell it, unfortunately. It would stay in the family.
The appraisal revealed an entirely new side of the painting, but for the owner, its greatest meaning was still the family story behind it. From a piece he saw every day when he was young, the Henry Siddons Mowbray painting became proof that sometimes the most valuable treasures have been right in front of us all along. Number 9. 1945. Robert Rauschenberg Oil Portrait. Long before Robert Rauschenberg became a giant of modern American art, he painted a simple portrait of a fellow serviceman, and that quiet moment would one day become far more important than anyone expected. But what made this piece special was not the person in the portrait, it was the person who created it.
I brought a portrait of my father by Robert Rauschenberg. My father was in the service in 1945. I became friends with Robert Rauschenberg.
The detail that changed the entire story was the moment when the painting was created. In 1945, Robert Rauschenberg had not yet become a famous name in modern American art. This was an extremely early period, when he was only beginning to explore his creative path. And that was exactly what made an ordinary family portrait become much more interesting. But for many years, the family saw it in a completely different way.
Yeah, we did. Actually, we always had two pictures on the wall, and the one was probably a $2 picture, and then this was this one, and being lime green and everything, you'd always assume the one on the right was always the more expensive one, but my dad says, no, this is signed by Robert Rauschenberg.
This is what creates some of the most surprising moments on Antiques Roadshow. A valuable object is not always lost or hidden away. Sometimes it has been there the entire time, but the true story behind it has never been discovered. But with a major artist like Rauschenberg, a signature alone is not enough. The next important step is proving the history of the artwork.
And I think these are great because they actually show, this one right here shows your father sitting while in the Navy with Robert Rauschenberg.
Yes, exactly.
The additional evidence helped directly connect the painting to the artist. In the art market, provenance can make an enormous difference, especially with works from a rare period of a famous artist's career. And when all these details came together, the true value of the portrait was finally revealed.
I would put a conservative auction estimate of $40,000 to $60,000 on it.
Holy cow, are you kidding me? I guess it was worth more than that $2 picture right next to it. Oh, amazing.
Its greatest value was not only found in the famous signature, but also in the story of an ordinary moment preserved before a young serviceman became an art legend. Number 10, 1964. Eustace Paul, Rusty Hurlin, Northern Lights painting. A painting of the Northern Lights in Alaska can hold more than just a beautiful landscape. It can preserve the story of a place and the artist who spent his life capturing it. For this family, the artwork was never an investment. It was a memory passed down through generations. But what made it even more special was that it was not a random purchase. It was commissioned directly from Rusty Hurlin himself.
Well, I know my grandfather got it commissioned back in 1964. They were living in Fairbanks, and they took the family on a drive down to Esther, where Rusty lived and worked. My dad was about 10 or 11 back then. He remembers faintly, but my grandfather went in a separate room with Rusty and discussed what kind of painting he wanted. And
this direct connection became an important part of the painting's history. In art, value is not only about the signature. The story behind a piece, where it came from, and how it connects to the artist can completely change the way people see it. But for the family, this painting meant something different.
It definitely has a lot of sentimental value. My parents grew up in Fairbanks. I grew up in California. They moved down to California in the 80s. But I always grew up hearing about Alaska, wanting to go explore and move back. And
for them, it was a connection to Alaska. But when the expert looked closer, it became clear that this was also a strong example of what made Rusty Hurlin's work so recognizable. He was known for capturing the beauty, silence, and unique atmosphere of the northern landscape.
And this painting is what makes Alaska, Alaska. The snow, the musher, the northern lights, the palette. It's a really gentle, subtle blue. What I really like about the painting is he really was able to capture quiet.
That ability to capture a feeling is what made this artwork stand out. It was not just a scene of the Northern Lights, but a combination of nature, people, and the spirit of Alaska that defined Hurlin's career. And finally, the true value of the painting was revealed.
I would give it an auction estimate of between $40,000 and $60,000.
Wow, that's more than I thought.
And for insurance, I think maybe around $75,000.
Okay. Wow, was not expecting that.
From a family painting filled with memories, this piece became an unforgettable Antiques Roadshow discovery. Its value was not only in the Northern Lights scene, but in the story of an artist who turned his connection with Alaska into a lasting artistic legacy. Number 11, 1937 Berger Sanzane Landscape Painting. Could a simple two-word piece of advice reveal the entire style of a famous artist? For the owner, this painting was more than just something hanging on the wall. It was connected to a special memory, the moment he actually met Berger Sanzane himself. But many years later, he discovered that the artist's short comment was the key to understanding what made Sanzane's paintings so unique.
In 1946, Berger Sanzane, the artist here, started a little summer art session, and I was one of the lucky few that got into that. And I remember doing the standard drawings, and Sanzane would come through once in a while. And the painting that I was doing was of a donkey, and he looked at it and he said, "More paint."
More paint perfectly describes Sanzane's approach to art. He became known for using thick layers of paint, bold colors, and powerful brush strokes to make landscapes feel full of energy. But behind this recognizable style was the story of an artist who combined European influences with the beauty of the American landscape.
But he really preferred to paint a realistic view of the American landscape because he felt that that's what people could really relate to.
What made Sanzane interesting was that he did not completely follow the modern art movements of his time. He chose familiar landscapes, but transformed them through vivid colors, light, and textured surfaces. And this painting contained one of the most important elements of his work.
And he had a unique style of painting where he left a very thick layer of impasto over the entire surface. After he visited Colorado, he brightened up his colors and his whole palette became lighter and brighter. And this is actually a Colorado work.
Yes.
His Colorado painting showed the qualities that made collectors appreciate Sanzane's work: thick paint, striking colors, and a sense of movement within nature. But what the owner never expected was that this familiar painting was worth far more than he imagined.
I think at auction this might bring as much as $30,000 to $50,000.
Oops. No, I was thinking in the hundreds maybe, but thousands, no.
From a landscape painting connected to a personal memory, this artwork became a memorable discovery on Antiques Roadshow. Its value came not only from the name Birger Sanzane, but also from the way it captured his artistic spirit: more color, more texture, and more life. Number 12. Tiffany Glass Mosaics. Could pieces of glass removed from an old building actually be the remains of a masterpiece created more than 100 years ago? At first glance, they might look like decorative pieces left behind after a renovation. But behind these glass fragments is the story of Tiffany Studios, one of the most famous names in American decorative art history. And the discovery began with a building that had been forgotten for decades.
Tell me how you came to acquire these very large and heavy pieces.
We took possession of the Farwell building in 2015, 100 years after it was built. The three main lobby glass tile domes were Louis Tiffany. They were in severe disrepair. They were not restorable.
What makes this story special is that these were not individual Tiffany objects created for display. They were once part of a complete architectural space where glass, color, and light came together as one large design. But after many years, much of the original structure was no longer intact.
The building had been vacant for 35 years or so. Lots of things were destroyed and stolen. So we rebuilt the ceilings completely, and these are the remnants of what was there.
That is why the surviving pieces became much more important. Many historic architectural details disappear over time, but these glass sections still preserve traces of a historic Tiffany project. And even more surprisingly, their origin was clearly documented.
Well, I can tell you that Tiffany was so proud of this that they even published an ad stating that they had just done the work in the Farwell building. So this was something that Tiffany wanted to advertise prominently. And the building did open in March of 1915. And Tiffany decorated the first floor corridors with these wonderful barrel vaulted ceilings with rib vaults.
This historical record transformed the glass pieces from remnants of an old building into part of the legacy of Tiffany Studios. In the collecting world, provenance like this can make a huge difference. And finally, the true value of these century-old mosaics was revealed.
This one, I would say more like $15,000 to $20,000. This one, I would say $30,000 to $40,000.
Wow, that's incredible.
$30,000 to $40,000 on that, and I would say $30,000 to $40,000 on that.
From pieces of glass that seemed like simple remains of an old structure, they became a memorable discovery on Antiques Roadshow. Their value came not only from the Tiffany name, but also from the story of a time when architecture, craftsmanship, and art were brought together into one creation. Number 13, 1984, Howard Finster Painting. Could a painting that a young cook had to pay for in installments become a work collectors would search for years later? When the owner first saw this piece, he was not thinking about value or investment. He only knew that something about its colors, imagery, and unusual style made it impossible for him to ignore. But what he did not know was that the person who created it would later become one of the most recognized names in American outsider art.
I bought it in Washington, D.C. in 1985. There was a gallery near where I lived. I loved it. I couldn't afford it with the money that I had in the bank. I was a cook.
What makes this story special is that the owner did not buy the painting as an experienced collector. He simply bought something he truly loved. But the timing was almost exactly when Howard Finster was beginning to gain wider attention. And one detail soon helped bring Finster's name beyond the traditional art world.
The thing is, he also did the cover of Talking Heads album called Little Creatures. And I paid my first payment, and then the next week, that album came out.
And who are we talking about here?
Howard Finster did not follow the path of a traditional painter. He created his own artistic world, combining images, symbols, and personal stories in a way unlike anyone else. The same difference that once made his work seem unusual eventually became what made it valuable.
Finster was a visionary artist, and he was out there, and you can look at this and say, wow.
Yeah.
This 1,984 painting clearly shows Finster's signature style, countless details, layered images, and a creative world that belonged entirely to him. For outsider art collectors, the value comes from that originality, something that cannot be recreated. And over time, the market began to see his work in a completely different way.
In the right outsider art auction, I think this would probably bring between $15,000 and $25,000.
Really? That's great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Good for Howard.
From a painting purchased simply out of love, this piece became a memorable discovery on Antiques Roadshow. Its value was not only found in the appraisal number, but also in the story of an artist who became recognized because of the unique creative world he built. Number 14. Emil Carlson Harbor Scene Painting. For the owner, this was not a collection built as an investment. They were simply paintings inherited from relatives, but sometimes the objects that have been around a family for years carry much bigger stories than anyone realizes.
Now, can you tell me something about the origin of this painting?
I can't tell you anything more than I inherited all three of them from my aunt and uncle. I think they bought all three when they were living in just outside of New York City.
Yes.
One of the works was identified as a painting by Emil Carlson, an artist who was born in Denmark and later built his artistic career in America. Carlson became known for his ability to capture light, space, and atmosphere in his paintings. But what caught the experts' attention about this piece was not a dramatic or intense seascape. Instead, what made it stand out was something completely different, a quiet feeling that gave the painting its own unique character.
Well, what I like about this painting in particular, I think it's almost like a kind of a holiday. I mean, it seems so tranquil and so sunny, whereas quite often you see the fishing fleet, which is battling against some storm drama all around the British coast. And this, of course, has a kind of quite a different atmosphere.
That sense of calm showed Carlson's ability to transform a simple landscape into a moment filled with emotion. But this was not the only surprise hidden within the collection. As the expert continued examining the other paintings, another piece revealed a connection to a famous artistic family from Spain.
Well, it's by a family, Madraza. This is by Rauschenberg, and there are a whole number of members of the family. And it's rather curious here because the signature here, it's not very clearly an R, but I think I've been able to decipher it correctly, that it in fact is Rauschenberg.
Raimundo de Madrazo was known for his refined painting technique, especially in the way he captured figures, light, and delicate details. And those small details became exactly what made this painting the highlight of the group.
And I think the wonderful painting on the back of the neck, just pushed in the paint with the brush strokes. And then, of course, the contrast with the flesh tones and then the flowers in the hair. It's absolutely wonderful. And I would have thought probably that's worth £15,000 and possibly ought to be insured for 20.
What started as a few ordinary family paintings became a memorable discovery on Antiques Roadshow. The true value is not only found in the appraisal number, but also in the artistic stories and important names that have been quietly preserved for generations. Number 15. Alfred Bastien's Sketchbook Collection. Could an old stack of papers sitting in an attic for years simply be forgotten drawings? Or could it be hiding an entire valuable art collection? When the family discovered this album, they had no idea that inside were dozens of works by a recognized artist. It was not displayed in a gallery or kept as a prized collection. It was simply stored away with old family belongings. But sometimes, the most unexpected discoveries appear in the places people least expect.
What a splendid album, full of splendid drawings, if I may say, by the artist Alfred Bastien, a Belgian painter. Tell me something of how you came by them.
We found them in the attic of an elderly relative. She died in 1988.
Yes.
We had to empty the house.
What made this album special was not just the number of drawings that were discovered. They were created by Alfred Bastien, a Belgian artist known for capturing many different subjects, from people and landscapes to historical scenes. For artists, a sketchbook is not only a place for practice, it can reveal how they observed the world, tested ideas, and developed their own creative style. And as the expert looked through each page, he quickly realized these were not just ordinary sketches.
You've got a splendid one here of the French Foreign Legion.
Yes.
And others of sort of ships, landscapes. He has a most wonderful style.
The value of this collection came from the way it revealed many different sides of the same artist. A finished painting may only show the final result, but sketches can uncover the creative process behind it. Sometimes, just a few simple strokes are enough to show an artist's skill and the unique way they see the world.
My favourite actually is this one. Very sort of Boudin-esque, isn't it?
Yes.
Isn't it marvellous? A few brush strokes and he's actually got it there.
Another important detail was that the entire album had remained together after so many years. Many groups of artworks become separated or lost over time, but this collection preserved a more complete view of Alfred Bastien's work. And finally, the true number of pieces inside the album brought one last surprise.
I counted 160 approximately in here. And I feel that at auction, they would make about 12 to 15,000 pounds as they are. So, not a bad discovery in the attic.
Not bad at all.
From an old collection of papers hidden away in an attic, this album became a memorable discovery on Antiques Roadshow. Its value was not only in the auction estimate, but in the way those 160 drawings preserved the creativity, artistic process, and talent of Alfred Bastien across the years. Number 16. Mortimer Menpe's portrait of Dangereux. Can a single portrait preserve more than one remarkable story? What was it about this painting that immediately caught the expert's attention? At first glance, he knew this was no ordinary portrait. It was not just the confident brushwork that stood out, but the striking feeling that the figure was still standing beneath the glow of the theater lights. But the biggest surprise was still to come.
Such a good medium to catch this. He's caught all the warmth of the footlights streaming up into his face, and also the marvellous power of his expression. And I love these deep blues behind him. I think it's absolutely wonderful.
The finest portraits do more than capture a face. They preserve the personality and presence of the person they depict. And the subject here was no ordinary individual. He was Danjuro, one of the greatest stars in the history of Japanese kabuki theater. But the painting's importance did not rest solely on its subject. The identity of the artist made the story even more compelling.
Called Danjuro. It's Danjuro.
That's the name of the actor?
Yeah, Danjuro was a Japanese actor, very famous, renowned.
The portrait was painted by Mortimer Menpes, a British artist celebrated for his fascination with Japanese art and culture. He traveled to Japan himself, making this work more than just a portrait. It became a meeting point between two artistic traditions. Yet another remarkable detail was waiting to be uncovered.
It's by Mortimer Menpes, and it was given by Menpes to Sir Henry Irving.
The English actor?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was in 1898.
The fact that the painting once belonged to Sir Henry Irving, one of Britain's greatest stage actors, gave it an extraordinary provenance. It created a rare connection between two legendary figures of Eastern and Western theater within a single artwork. It's easy to see why the expert considered this one of the painting's most fascinating qualities.
And I would put really quite a high value for a late Menpes on this picture, simply because of its extreme drama and its great power. I mean, this picture is going to sock you in the eye from the end of the longest room, isn't it? For insurance, you should certainly value it at £12,000. It's a most impressive picture.
What had been carefully preserved for years turned out to be one of the most memorable discoveries on Antiques Roadshow. Its value was measured not only by Mortimer Menpes' name or the £12,000 insurance valuation, but by the extraordinary story it carried, a rare moment where art, theater, and history came together in a single remarkable portrait. Number 17. Edward Donovan Lepidoptera Watercolors. Could a collection of watercolor paintings of butterflies and insects be nothing more than old scientific illustrations? Or could they preserve an important chapter in the history of both science and art? When the owner brought these watercolors to Antiques Roadshow, no one expected such a small collection to tell such a remarkable story. But after only a few moments of examination, the expert realized these were far more than attractive illustrations.
This is quite an amazing collection. Where did you get them from?
I got them from an antiquarian book dealer in Petersfield.
Was this very long ago?
It was probably about 4 years ago.
Before photography became available, illustrations like these were one of the primary ways people documented the natural world. Every detail had to be accurate, from the delicate wings of a butterfly to every leaf surrounding it. But what impressed the expert was not only their scientific precision, the artistic quality of the paintings was equally remarkable.
Well, they are the most beautiful 1840s, 1830s watercolors, so detailed that they're absolutely immaculate. Not only are the butterflies fabulous, but the backgrounds and the leaves and the nettles and all the rest of it are just absolutely incredible.
These works represent a rare combination of scientific observation and artistic craftsmanship. Rather than simply recording different species, they bring each subject vividly to life in a way few natural history illustrations of the period could achieve. But the discovery took an even more exciting turn when the expert noticed a familiar name written across the pages.
Now, I noticed at the top it says Van Diemen's Land Lepidoptera, and I notice on this one it says Chinese Lepidoptera. Now, I do know of an author who did a book on Chinese Lepidoptera, and his name was Donovan.
That clue pointed to Edward Donovan, one of Britain's leading natural history illustrators. If these watercolors were truly connected to Donovan's published work, they represented far more than a beautiful collection of paintings. And when the owner revealed what had originally been paid for them, the biggest surprise finally arrived.
And we paid about £400.
Right. I think you better go and buy the others off him. I think you wouldn't sell them. No. Well, I think you're 22. It's such a pity to break them up in many ways, yeah. But you're 22 are worth in the region of £10,000.
Purchased for only about £400, this remarkable group of watercolors became one of the memorable discoveries on Antiques Roadshow. Their significance was measured not only by the estimated value of around £10,000, but by the way they preserved an era when art and science worked hand in hand to explore, document, and better understand the natural world. Number 18. John Ray, Alice in Wonderland Oil Painting. Could a painting rescued from a trash pile really turn out to be a work of art worth thousands of dollars? It sounds almost impossible, yet that is exactly where this story begins. One man happened to notice the painting beside an old abandoned barn and decided to take it home simply because he felt it deserved a second chance. What he rescued from that pile of discarded belongings turned out to be far more valuable than anyone in the family had ever imagined.
Dad saw this old barn or dilapidated building of some sort that had a trash pile, and he could see this painting in the trash pile. Dad was an artist, so he thought it was interesting, and he stopped and picked this up, put it in the car, and they went on about their road trip, and it stayed in the closet the whole time I was a kid.
For years, the painting simply sat in a closet as an old family keepsake. Everything changed when the appraiser noticed the signature in the corner. It belonged to John Ray, an American illustrator well known for his work on books and magazines. Even more intriguing, Ray had a remarkable connection to the world of Alice.
Well, it's signed on here, John Ray. John Ray was born in 1882. He studied in New York at the Art Students League under a well-known American illustrator named Howard Pyle. And he contributed illustrative work to about 50 books and did a lot of work for magazines as well.
Wow, I didn't know that.
John Ray not only illustrated numerous books, but also created his own story, inspired by Alice in Wonderland. That connection made this painting far more significant than an ordinary illustration. But there was still one more detail that fascinated the appraiser.
He also wrote and illustrated children's books, and he did write a book about Alice. He seemed to be somewhat obsessed with Alice, I think.
The painting reveals Ray's own imaginative interpretation of Alice's world, blending fine art and illustration into a style that was uniquely his. At last, the painting that had once been left beside a trash pile received the recognition its family had never expected.
I think in a retail setting, the asking price might be around $10,000.
Wow.
Not bad for something rescued from the
Not
trash.
bad, not bad for the trash, no. Yeah.
From a discarded painting to one of the memorable discoveries on Antiques Roadshow, John Ray's Alice in Wonderland became a true hidden treasure. Its value lies not only in its estimated price of around $10,000, but also in the remarkable journey of a work once dismissed as trash before being recognized as a genuine piece of American illustration history. Number 19. 1905 Olaf Carl Seltzer Western Watercolor. Could a family painting passed down through generations actually preserve a piece of the American West's history? The owner knew almost nothing about this watercolor. There was only one clue. Many years ago, her great-grandmother had traveled out west, and somehow the painting found its way into the family. Sometimes, though, the vaguest family stories lead to the most remarkable discoveries.
I have a painting that's been in the family for many years, and I don't know anything about it.
Any idea how it came into your family, who collected it?
I think probably my great-grandmother.
Within minutes, the appraiser identified the artist as Olaf Carl Seltzer, best known for capturing scenes of the American West. What makes Seltzer especially interesting is that he didn't simply paint the frontier, he actually lived there, giving his work an authenticity that collectors continue to admire. But his journey toward becoming an artist did not begin with painting at all.
So this is a watercolor on paper by Olaf Carl Seltzer. And he was actually born in Denmark in 1877. When his father passed, he moved to the United States with his mother. That was about 1897. They settled in Montana. And he first decided he was going to be a cowboy.
Everything changed when Seltzer met Charles Russell, one of the greatest names in American Western art. Russell became not only a close friend but also his teacher, helping Seltzer develop as a painter. That connection launched his artistic career and made his early works especially desirable to collectors. So just how valuable was this long-forgotten family painting?
Now, in the lower left of this painting, we have a signature, O. Seltzer, and a date of 1905. He was rather young, about 28 probably, when he painted this picture. An auction estimate today for this size work in watercolor by Seltzer would be $8,000 to $12,000.
Wow. Quite impressive.
From a family painting whose origins had nearly been forgotten, this 1905 watercolor became one of the memorable discoveries on Antiques Roadshow. Its significance goes beyond the auction estimate of $8,000 to $12,000. It also tells the story of a young immigrant who first dreamed of becoming a cowboy before earning a place among the artists who preserved the spirit of the American West through their work. Number 20. Benny Andrews Oil Painting. Could a $45 box of old junk purchased on a rainy morning really be hiding a valuable work of art? That's exactly the kind of discovery that makes Antiques Roadshow so fascinating. No one wanted to step onto the wet grass to inspect the boxes sitting outside the estate sale. But one ordinary decision changed everything.
My son and I go to auctions, estate sales, looking for junk. It was a rainy morning, and there were box lots out on the grass of this auction. And nobody wanted to get their feet wet. We really didn't look in the box, the frame looked really nice, so we ended up getting the box for $45.
The box was brought home simply because the picture frame looked attractive. When the family finally opened it, they found another painting carefully wrapped inside for many years. Then, one small signature immediately caught the appraiser's attention.
So my son got around to it, brought the box in. This was wrapped up with another one in very old saran wrap.
This is exciting. It's a really beautiful example. You've seen the signature, you know the artist, Benny Andrews.
Benny Andrews was one of the most influential African-American artists of the 20th century, celebrated for emotionally powerful work centered on people and everyday life. What makes this painting even more significant is that it comes from the early years of his career, when Andrews was developing the distinctive style that later defined his work. That is exactly why collectors are especially interested in paintings like this. So how much could a $45 estate sale purchase actually be worth?
I would put it at auction conservatively at $7,000 to $10,000.
You're freaking kidding me. All right. Well, guess it's not going online. All right, cool.
It's an amazing find.
Right.
From an old box abandoned in the rain, this Benny Andrews painting became one of the memorable discoveries on Antiques Roadshow. Its importance goes beyond the estimated value of $7,000 to $10,000. It is also the story of an important work by a respected artist that almost disappeared as nothing more than unwanted junk, until someone finally decided to open the box. Number 21. Frank Moss Bennett Card Players. Painting. Could a painting that had hung in the same family for generations be more than a treasured memory and actually be the original version of an image seen by countless people? For the owner, this artwork had always been part of childhood and family history. No one imagined that the familiar painting on the wall could be worth far more than sentimental value. But the moment the appraiser saw it, he knew this was no ordinary painting.
This image must be familiar to lots of people. Painted by Frank Moss Bennett, a prolific artist, illustrator, and this type of subject in his work was reproduced into numerous reproductions and cards and so on. And in fact, on the Antiques Roadshow, we see enormous numbers of his works reproduced.
It belonged to my grandfather.
Frank Moss Bennett became famous for lively historical scenes that make every figure appear as though they are part of an unfolding story. What's especially fascinating is that many people have seen this image through prints and postcards, while original paintings like this are far less common. And this particular work contained another detail that immediately caught the expert's attention.
The signature, Bennett, 1930. But we're looking at a costume which really goes back to a much earlier period, and it goes back into the 18th century.
Although it was painted in 1930, Bennett deliberately recreated the atmosphere of the 18th century through carefully researched costumes, interiors, and period details. That became one of the defining characteristics of his work. But the subject itself was only part of the story. The quality of the painting was what truly made it stand out.
It is absolutely brilliantly painted. I think what I love about it is the background, the way that it's rather thinly painted, and then with more building up of the paint surfaces, beautiful drapery.
From the handling of light to the folds of the clothing, Bennett created a composition that is both richly detailed and remarkably natural. That is the difference between a familiar reproduction and the original work created by the artist himself. After many years as nothing more than a cherished family heirloom, the painting's true significance was finally revealed.
I mean, you said something, was it 60 guineas or 60 pounds?
60 pounds, as far as I remember.
Yes. I think it's a very, very good painting by him, that it's worth probably £5,000 to £7,000.
Really?
And might even be worth more.
Good Lord.
From a painting once purchased within the family for about £60, this Frank Moss Bennett original became one of the memorable discoveries on Antiques Roadshow. Its significance extends beyond the estimated value of £5,000 to £7,000. It is also the original version of an image that generations of people recognized, preserved for decades by a family who treasured it long before anyone understood its true artistic importance. Number 22. Matilda Brown, Portrait of a Young Woman in Yellow. How often does a portrait preserve not only a face, but the person behind it for nearly a century? And what happens when that person is still alive to tell the story herself? At first glance, the brilliant yellow dress is what immediately captures attention. But the appraiser quickly realized this painting offered far more than striking color or fine technique. Hidden behind the portrait was an extraordinary story that very few works of art could ever tell.
Sometimes the defining colour that gives a portrait its name. The blue boy, the pink boy. Now perhaps she should be called the yellow girl. She's a wonderful colour. What can you tell me about her? Is she yours?
The painting was created by Matilda Brown, an American artist celebrated for her expressive portraits. At a time when female painters received far less recognition than their male counterparts, Brown earned a reputation through her remarkable ability to capture personality and emotion. Yet the greatest surprise surrounding this painting had nothing to do with the artist herself.
And we know the subject.
We do know the subject, yes. She's my grandmother.
She's your grandmother?
Yes.
Unlike many historic portraits whose subjects have been forgotten over time, this family's connection to the young woman never disappeared. That gave the painting an exceptional provenance and an unusually personal history. But the most unforgettable moment was still to come.
We have the astonishing opportunity to talk to the subject herself, a picture like this done in the 1930s.
Yes, she's here.
I have to say, it's absolutely wonderful to meet the subject of a picture like this.
Very few appraisers ever have the opportunity to meet the very person who sat for a portrait painted decades earlier. In that instant, the artwork became much more than a painting. It became a remarkable meeting between the past and the present.
Can I ask, it's very intrusive, how old you are?
103.
103. 103. So you were how old when you were being painted?
20 or 21.
What began as a cherished family portrait became one of the most unforgettable moments ever featured on Antiques Roadshow. Its significance extends far beyond Matilda Brown's name or its appraised value. More than 80 years after the portrait was painted, the young woman in yellow was still able to stand beside her own image and share the memories behind it. That rare connection transformed the painting into something far greater than a work of art. It became a living piece of family history. Number 23. Christopher Chamberlain, Burnthwaite Road. Could a painting bought for just £1, then hidden away in an attic simply because it looked too dark and gloomy, actually be worth thousands? That is exactly how the story of Burnthwaite Road begins. For years, its owner barely gave it a second thought. But within minutes of examining it, the appraiser realized this was far from an ordinary painting.
Well, now this isn't a bit of a state, really. It's been through the wars. What do you want to know about it?
Just if it's worth any money.
I see. Well.
The first clues appeared on the back of the canvas. The artist's name, Christopher Chamberlain, the location depicted, and even a label showing that the painting had been submitted to the Royal Academy in 1952. Those details immediately changed the conversation. But they were only the beginning of what made this work special.
We know that it's by an artist called Chamberlain, because there's a label on the back giving us his name, Christopher Chamberlain.
That's right.
And we know that it was submitted to the Royal Academy in 1952.
Yes.
And we know where it is as well. It's Burnthwaite Road, round the back of Fulham Broadway in London.
Christopher Chamberlain became known for painting everyday scenes of London, transforming ordinary streets into lasting records of post-war life. At first glance, the painting feels quiet and even somber, but the longer you study it, the more small details begin telling their own story.
If you look at this, there is a lot going on in it. You've got this fella on crutches. He might be a war veteran, hobbling along the street, and he's avoiding the ladder. There's a bit of humour, you see.
That is why this painting rewards careful observation. Every figure and every corner of the street reflects life in London after the war. Ironically, its owner thought it was simply too dull to display, so it spent years forgotten in the attic instead.
I put it up on the wall and I thought, oh, it's too dull, I don't like that. And I just put it away and put it up in the attic.
Oh, right.
And it's been there ever since. And it wasn't until we were having the roof insulated that I came across it again.
What started as a £1 purchase that seemed too gloomy to hang on the wall became one of the memorable discoveries on Antiques Roadshow. Its significance extends beyond its estimated value of £2,000 to £3,000. The painting preserves a quiet snapshot of post-war London, proving that sometimes the works forgotten the longest are the ones with the most meaningful stories waiting to be rediscovered.